Good morning, everyone. My name is Kara Highfill. I'm with the Illinois Restaurant Association, and I'd like to thank you for joining our webinar today. The topic is Win the Web, Safeguarding Your Online Brand. So we'll explore a number of different ways to manage your online presence and safeguard your restaurant's reputation in the process. Today's webinar is being broadcast in English, Spanish, and Mandarin. So to listen to Spanish or Chinese, please use the interpretation button in your toolbar at the bottom. This webinar is being presented by the Illinois Restaurant Association, and we are doing this in conjunction with the Cook County Small Business Source. The Cook County Small Business Source is established to ensure that businesses emerge intact and positioned for growth and the Small Business Source also connects small business owners with expert guidance and support. Some of those services include no-cost business advising, resources, events that connect small business owners with a community of advisors and each other. For one-on-one business advising, sign up at cookcountysmallbiz.org. It's free and super easy. The Small Business Source will then connect you with an expert from their network, including us here at the Illinois Restaurant Association. All of their contact info will be included in the follow-up email that you will receive after this webinar. It's also on their website. Also, before we begin, I'd like everyone attending to know that the Illinois Restaurant Association is also a resource for anything you need in the hospitality industry as we all continue to recover from the past few years. Our staff, myself included, is focused on providing guidance, assistance, relief to restaurants, bars, caterers, event venues, all of the hospitality industry. We send regular updates, so you're in the know about, things that are happening legislatively that will affect your business and a host of different resources such as this webinar. So please make sure you sign up for our newsletter as well to make sure you're staying connected on this. Also for today's webinar, you can use the Q&A button in your toolbar to post questions at any time during the presentation. Or if you see another attendee has asked a question that you like, you can hit the thumbs up icon next to the question so we can prioritize that. At this time, I'd like to introduce our panelists. With us today is Ali Dooji. He's the managing partner with Bombay Eats. And we also have Kayla Luteran, Senior Digital Manager with Kinship Company. We're going to start today with Kayla. Please take it away, Kayla.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. As Kara mentioned, my name is Kayla. I am the Senior Digital Manager with Kinship, which is a PR agency located in the city. We primarily support hospitality brands like restaurants and hotels in Chicago, in Illinois, and beyond. I've spent my entire career in the hospitality industry, and me and my team currently are immersed in the restaurant atmosphere, as well as just how we are continuing to manage our partners' digital presence. And so today I wanted to talk about more from the marketing side about how you can actively manage your digital presence, your reputation, and your brand. The digital sphere is so large and it can often be overwhelming. So I wanted to identify a couple of key areas that you can actively manage your brand, regardless of the time or the resources you have. These are some of the most important areas to really cement in your presence. So here is just a quick little checklist. This is outside of social media, which is obviously very important as well, but exclusively digital platforms that you should really be focusing your efforts on. So this is a short list. Obviously, if you don't have a lot of time, these are the places where you really want to be investing your efforts. So I think the first two are probably fairly self-explanatory. You want to make sure that you are a very active user and manager of your website. Your website is your biggest source of information that you are giving to your guests. It is also somewhere where you own everything on there. So you can include the content, the photography, the tone that you want to really be reinforcing your reputation of your restaurant. Really important that you're continuing to actively update that as time goes on to make sure that everything is up to date and exactly what you want your guests to be seeing. Same thing with your reservations platform or any takeout platforms that you're using. Obviously a bit more limited in terms of what information you can use, but it's a super highly trafficked platform that guests are going to be accessing. So you want to make sure that you're an active owner of all of the content and the information there. And then a couple of online listings that are super important to be maintaining. Again, there are so many out there, but these are the big three that in my experience have driven the most ROI to our restaurants. So those three are Google Business, Yelp, and TripAdvisor. I think Google Business is the most obvious one. Google is Google and everybody uses it to get all of their information. So that one is definitely one that is the most trafficked, one that is going to be the most seen by your guests. We'll talk a little bit more about Yelp and then TripAdvisor, which TripAdvisor is a little different because that platform is catered towards tourists, out of towners, any other people that are kind of traveling, which obviously through COVID that has shifted a little bit. So TripAdvisor still important, but I think it has kind of had a lot of shifts and fallen out of favor slightly more because we're not having quite as much of a dialogue around traveling, or it's been fluctuating a lot. And then a couple of other marketing channels that really aid in creating a presence on your digital platforms, one of which is email marketing. So obviously email marketing is a great way for you to interact with your guests through the online sphere. You can cater the content that you want. It's just a really great way to build an audience and an engaged following. Any guest communication that you have, so confirmation emails after a visit, any type of communication you send post-visit, again, just kind of continuing to build your brand online and really create a connection with the guests that are visiting you. And then Google Ads, which is paid marketing. However, it's really important that we're having a good presence on Google. And so if you have the marketing budget, Google Ads would be another area to really invest in here. The first place I want to dive into is Yelp, which I think people are always so surprised when I bring up how important Yelp is to your presence. I think it's kind of shifted the dialogue around Yelp, and I think sometimes it feels a little bit less important than platforms like Google. But that's also not entirely true. There are so many benefits to having a really robust presence on Yelp, both for just your brand, but also for really driving that reputation. So a couple of key points here about Yelp. So Yelp is a top referrer to websites and reservation platforms. So if you go into the back end of your website, you can see where everybody is coming from to find your website, which is a referral. And in my experience with the restaurants I work with, the majority of the time, the number one referral to your website is Yelp. Yelp is driving hundreds and hundreds of people to your website to give you a call, to make a reservation. And so it's really important that we're really building a presence there, knowing just the amount of people that are coming from Yelp to your other platforms and just kind of the way that guests are really engaged on that platform. So these are some numbers from a restaurant that I work with that opened in West Loop in 2021. And so you can see here that there are hundreds of people that are visiting the website from Yelp, people that are even pressing a button and calling your restaurant. And then impressions is essentially the amount of views. So we had over almost 40,000 people that were looking at Yelp. So it's a really great way to kind of get your brand out there, but knowing that that many people are looking at Yelp means that we really want to make sure that your reputation and your brand is rock solid on that platform. Yelp is also one of the largest resources for undecided diners. So if guests don't really know where they want to dine or they're in between places, research shows that they go to Yelp. It's one of the most reviewed businesses, restaurants are on that platform. So having a presence on Yelp also means that you're getting in front of a brand new audience, people that might not be familiar with your brand. So again, if there's not that familiarity, you want to be putting your best foot forward with what you're showing with your reputation. And then a bit more of like the technology side is that Yelp has high domain authority. So if you search your restaurant on Google, you will probably see your Yelp listing in one of the top 5 results that show up, which is because Yelp has really incredible SEO that populates across the entire web. So knowing that even if you're on Google, people can still see your Yelp platform. They post your star rating really big up there when you see it. So there's also ways that you see Yelp across the web in more places than just on the platform. So talking about Yelp and your listings, what are the best ways for you to be putting your best foot forward, for you to really be building your presence? So a couple of steps for Yelp, for Google Business and beyond. Number one is just claiming and verifying your listings. Listings can be floating around even if no one is owning them. So making sure that you yourself are the owner and everyone on your team that needs access has them, just so that there's nobody else kind of populating information, any other information making its way onto your listing. Adding as much information as you can. I think that, location, hours, phone number is going to be like the low hanging fruit, but making sure that you're adding even more than that. On Yelp, you can add any type of description you want. So if you have like a boilerplate for press or a short little description, that's super helpful. You can add photography, which is huge for your presence. Photos on Yelp can get thousands and thousands of views, and they really sell your story. And then any additional information. Basically, if you know the answer, you should be putting that information on your profiles. The third thing, which we will definitely go a lot more into detail, is encouraging people to leave reviews and responding to all of your guests, both positive and negative. These online listings are where people go to really understand your reputation and to see those star ratings. So really encouraging people to leave reviews and engaging with them continues that experience beyond the dining room. The other thing too is that your star ratings obviously contribute to your placement on Yelp, on Google Business. So making sure that reputation is a part of your online listing strategy. And then the big thing that sometimes falls under is you've populated your listing, all the information's out there, and then you don't really touch the information again. The big thing is to make sure that you are actively monitoring your profiles often, and then you're updating information at least quarterly, just beyond like my hours have changed, that you're adding new photography, that you're making sure your holiday closures are there, that you're updating any safety information. The updating and the monitoring part is what really makes your listings valuable. And then you're just continuing to build on that digital presence and that reputation as you build your content on these listings. So to get more into the reputation side of things, which is so important, the way that we kind of handle reputation at Kinship is we respond pretty much daily, about 48 hours at the longest, to all reviews. So making sure that you're not just responding to the positives or vice versa. It goes a long way to see that ownership is involved with this feedback and that you're really taking your guest feedback to heart. Guests go to Yelp and they go to Google Business when they want to know more about your reputation. So seeing these responses really helps build your presence. And so the way that we respond to reviews is kind of like a three-pronged approach. This is like a little bit more of a robust strategy, but even just a thank you goes a long way if you're running short on time, just making sure that you are interacting with everyone that leaves a review. So first things first, thanking them for leaving their review. Even if they left a critical comment, it's still good to thank them for taking the time to give you their feedback. That type of sentiment goes a long way with the guest as well as the people reading those reviews. Second thing is acknowledgement. So actually commenting on the comments that were left. I think that sometimes this type of platform now, we're so used to like chat bots and computers being there to answer your questions, that this is where people can really tell that like there is another person on the side of the screen really taking my feedback into consideration. And so really acknowledging those comments. Positive would be like, we're so glad to hear you enjoyed your experience. Thank you for taking the time to celebrate with us. We hope we can celebrate again with you soon. Really just finding a way to acknowledge the comments that were left. Same thing with a negative review, right? We appreciate the feedback about X, Y, and Z that you left. And then the last thing which is important because it kind of prompts an action after the review, is really making sure there's some type of action there. So please join us again soon. We look forward to serving you again, inviting them back in. Or the negative side of things is allowing your guests to give you more feedback, for you to reach out to them and to talk through any critical points that they made. So we kind of take this three-pronged approach when we're responding to reviews, just to really put your best foot forward and to make sure that those responses are catered, that they're thorough, and that they really acknowledge the comments that your guests are making. And then all of this, right, goes towards your star rating, which the sentiment is great and we love the reviews and kind of the feedback there, but all of this contributes to your star ratings on Yelp, on Google, on all of those different platforms. Your star ratings matter. Like, we're all consumers, you know that people go to Yelp and they will pay a little bit more attention or be a little bit more swayed towards restaurants that have higher star ratings. So you want that for your own reputation. But like from a technology marketing standpoint, higher ratings are often placed higher in search results. So if you have a higher star rating, you'll probably be placed higher than people that don't, meaning that your profile will be clicked on more. So there's again, lots of studies about how positive reviews get more clicks. They have more traffic driven to their sites because that rating is so tantalizing to people to see a positive rating there. Same thing with like negative feedback, right? Whenever you get negative feedback, not only does it impact just the sentiment surrounding your restaurant, but it can impact your placement in ratings. It can impact your search engine optimization across the board. In 2021, it says, and this is from Yelp, 67% of businesses were rated at a 4.0 or above. So in order to be super competitive on a platform like Yelp, you would really need to be competitive with about a 4.0 rating in order to really stack up against the averages that we're seeing on Yelp otherwise. So then from a marketing standpoint, all of this is great, but like, how do you increase your reviews? Like, what can you do to prompt more reviews, to really get that sentiment up that you're going for? And so here are just a couple of tactics that can be done super easily. You can do a giveaway for reviews. Be entered to win a gift card, a complimentary dinner for two. When you leave a Yelp review, Yelp does have guidelines about soliciting reviews. So you do need to make sure you follow any guidelines that they have. But basically, if you are just asking for a review, period, not necessarily a positive one, typically you can run these giveaways. And that's pretty tantalizing for guests to know that if they leave a review, they might be entered to win something. So that's kind of an option if you have the resources to do that, as long as you're abiding by Yelp's guidelines for running giveaways. Other ways that you can market across other channels. So you have direct links to your Yelp. There are direct links to Google Business, making sure that those links are posted everywhere. So they're on your website, they're in your social media bio. Maybe if you are doing email marketing, they're included there. Or it could even be in a post-visit email. If you have a way to send a post-visit email to your guests, asking them to leave a review, that's another way to really get that in front of them. It could even be a QR code that you have that you scan on your printed receipts at the end of a guest's dine, and then they leave a reservation there. Another way that you can continue to build your reputation is also to put the really great reviews as testimonials on your website. So another way to really focus back on the positive reviews that you're getting, and really make sure that you are hitting all of those points across all of your different platforms that you're using. So the other thing here is kind of knowing your options if you encounter a negative review, a fraud review, right? Something isn't looking so great, which I think this is largely spurred by the Google Business spam hackers that have been targeting restaurants in the month of July. It's an interesting situation. And I think that it was something that we all had to kind of figure out the best way to move forward, knowing that these types of reviews, spam reviews, fraudulent reviews really are impactful. And they really can impact not only like your business, but they impact your reputation. They impact your star ratings, right? Negative reviews are definitely really important and are something that should be prioritized, tackling them. So there are a couple of easy ways for you to flag those reviews to escalate that through Google. So the first thing is flagging reviews, right? Which there's a little flag next to any review. And so that you submit a request with the Google team or the Yelp team to flag this review. And then you have to select the policy that it violates. Google and Yelp are very, very strict that any review that's being flagged falls within these policies on their site. So that's how they evaluate the way that they're removing these reviews. They have to fall within these guidelines. Now, sometimes those reviews aren't always flagged in the way that you want them to, like Google is a platform and their technology, but they don't always understand that there's another situation on the other side of this. And so if you have a review that is inaccurate or fraud, or you're dealing with like some issue of spam, and your review to get your flag to get your review removed is denied, you can actually appeal those rejected reviews even further by submitting like an escalation report, which is another way to, again, have another touch point with Google. And then there's also a way to file a formal case, which when I was dealing with a couple of spam reviews, this is the way that I got in front of Google beyond just flagging the review. Is if you're in your Google business, there's this little support button and they give you a way to file case and you get an actual case number with a worker. So there are ways beyond just flagging your reviews to really get in front of your negative reputation. So those are the biggest points with reputation is you want the positive reviews, but you also want to know your options whenever a negative review inevitably comes up. So those were the basic points that I wanted to touch on. Basically, really owning your online listings, owning your reputation, as all of this contributes to your greater brand, your tone, your reputation all over the web. So I hope this information was helpful.
Thank you so much, Kayla. That was super helpful for me. I have several questions, and a reminder that we'll answer questions at the end after we have our next presenter. And if you have questions for the attendees, then drop them in the Q&A chat and we'll get those answered at the end. So next we have Ali DG, and he's with Bombay Eats. And so if you're ready, Ali, go ahead and take it away.
Yeah. I got to echo basically Kara's statement. Kayla, that was amazing. That was such a great presentation, a great overview. And what I'm going to do now is kind of a lot of what I'm going to share with you all is kind of complementing what Kayla says and go a little deeper into areas that I think as a restaurateur, as an operator, makes sense. But prior to starting, I want to thank the IRA for this opportunity. I'm super excited and passionate about consumer listening and delighting our customers. So I'm really glad that I can share this with you all. And we can make this interactive in the Zoom manner. Please post your comments, post your questions. I have my email there too. It's adug@bombaywraps or bombayeats.com. And all the info comes into my inbox too. Please send me questions. We can follow up. I love connecting with fellow restaurateurs. So I want to kind of continue this conversation beyond this and offline too. So kind of jumping into the presentation. I mean, it seems like these days, literally everybody has a microphone. They're on top of the tallest building, screaming, yelling their point of view. And as a restaurateur, it's kind of inundating. Our friends who have points of views, our customers have points of views, our team, rightfully so, and even strangers. People want to tell me how to run the business, what we should do. But honestly, that's the time and age we live in, right? So as we kind of go deeper, I want to urge you guys, if there's one thing you take away from this, what Kayla and I have shared is, please go back and do something. If we can just even do one action, I think it's going to be like a win presentation. So clearly you can tell I'm in the hospitality business because I like oversharing. Kayla didn't have this little pic collage, but I was like, oh, I got to share with you guys who I am. So I was born and raised in Bombay, India. The image there with the salon, I grew up in and around my mom's salon. So as a kid, I had this entrepreneur bug, being in and around customers, understanding customers, delighting them, fulfilling their needs. So that's kind of where I grew up was in this whole world of customer service. No place is more customer service oriented than a beauty salon. I came to the US to kind of pursue my further education, my MBA. I worked in companies like Campbell's Soup and Tropicana, and most recently PepsiCo. I did that for about 20 years and then joined my wife at Bombay Wraps. On the right is an image of my family. That's my wife in the shades. I got two young girls, and unfortunately, the older one in the hat, she is graduating and going to go to college in 2 months. So we're kind of a little sad there. And then that's me playing golf in my free time. I'm not sure when that is, but I'm an avid golfer and I enjoy playing golf. So that's a little bit about me. The next slide kind of goes into giving you a little background about what I do. Bombay Wraps is an Indian fast casual restaurant. Our mission is to make authentic, delicious Indian food accessible for the broader community, not an ethnic restaurant for ethnic food people, but really for all of Chicago to enjoy it. We founded Bombay Wraps in 2010. My wife actually started it while I was still doing my corporate gig. We got 3 units and a food truck. And this year is a very exciting year for us. We're transitioning our branding. We're going from Bombay Wraps to Bombay Eats. We launched our new website that's live and you can take a look at it. We also have our app. And then we're getting ready to open our first suburban location. That's going to be Naperville. So very exciting times. So kind of now just kind of diving into some of the heavy stuff. And I don't want to make this heavy. It's about really good information that I want to share with you. And I hope you feel the same way and leave this presentation feeling that excitement that I feel every day about consumer feedback and kind of listening to people, right? So my question for you is, when was the last time you used a review or a feedback to make a decision? And, we get a lot of feedback from a lot of places. Sometimes we're like, nah, I got it and I want to just do my thing. But honestly, guys, now's the time. It's an important age we live in. Consumer feedback is really important. And so if you go to the next slide, is, what consumers trust reviews. And Kayla said this, and Kara mentioned this a little bit. 97% of consumers read reviews about local businesses. 85% trust them as much as they trust personal recommendations, which is amazing to me because I thought personal recommendations is the highest point, but 85% trust it as much. And then 73% say positive reviews make them choose one over the other. And I have to say, I've been guilty a few times when I've seen a 4-star restaurant and a 3-star restaurant, and I don't want to discriminate that way, but I kind of gravitate to the highest star. After a certain point of having 100, 200, 300 reviews, it kind of normalizes. And honestly, it's the market telling you the truth of, hey, this restaurant is focused on their stuff. They're listening, they're adapting, they're making changes, and they're really focused on delighting their customers. Therefore, that reflects in the stars. And 73% of the consumers agree. They say positive reviews makes a big difference. So that's kind of what the stat is. So I feel, as I've been thinking about this presentation and just kind of thinking about our journey too, I feel now is the time to embrace consumer feedback. The last 3 years have been crazy, nuts, upside down. I guarantee you the next 3 years are going to be different for us. Our world is changing. There are so many factors and so many forces changing our business. And I think it's time for us to embrace that consumer feedback, right? So I start with people are talking. People are talking, people are giving reviews, people are sharing information with their friends. We have a choice. We can either stick our head in the sand, which I don't think that's a strategy, or we can listen, engage, and even control the conversation. I've honestly been in back and forth conversations with consumers where it came up as a scathing 1-star review about how everything sucks. I had the conversation, we went back and forth. This was through direct messaging. So off the public view, just like a private message. And by the end of it, they converted into a 5-star saying, oh, the owner was empathetic. They listened to me. I now have a little more insight about what went on that day. And I understand, and they've changed their point of view. So I would say, let's engage and control the conversation, or we're going to be left behind, right? The second thing is staying connected in this ever-changing world. Now more than ever, things are changing. When we started, vegetarian was the big thing. We recently launched our lunch boxes, which is like a nice little lunch box. And we got a lot of feedback about dietary restrictions, whether it's vegan, whether it's gluten-free, whether it's halal, whether it's other dietary restrictions. And we quickly incorporated that into our labeling. So we'll say chicken tikka, and then we'll give the dietary restrictions under that, which actually came from some customers telling us, hey, have you thought about that? A lot of our constituents, a lot of our meeting goers have these restrictions. Can you factor that in? I'm like, oh, that's such a great point. The next thing is then, once we get them involved, and we know as consumers, I go around touting the things that I love. I'll tell everybody who listen, And consumers are the same. When they get engaged in your business, they become advocates. They want to go tell all their friends, I found this restaurant or I found that business and you should go try it too. So they become your advocates, which then not only drives repeat business, but I think it also drives word of mouth and new business, right? And then the next thing is kind of connecting with your target, with your customer, because they may not always be a target. And this is a subtle point. So for example, with us, we're in the middle of rebranding Bombay Eats to the millennial consumer. I'm a Gen X. I don't really know everything there is to know about a millennial because I'm not a millennial. So my source of information really is talking to my consumers, hearing their feedback, understanding where this brand could go. What is your connection with this Indian brand? And how can I further that? So that's me listening to them, asking them as a Gen X, please tell me more about the millennial consumer, right? And that's kind of, we may not always have the same target as we are. So that's where listening and customer feedback becomes even more important. And then my final thing, which I love, that's one of my favorite sayings is, it's mostly business. It's not personal. I guarantee you, it feels very personal when you get that one to star review, but it's mostly business. It's not personal. I tell my team that all the time, is we're the last frontier. Customers come in, it's our job to delight them. Sometimes they want to kick the cat, and unfortunately that's us. But really it's business, and listening and getting that feedback and acting upon it is really important. Next slide. So then basically these are like simple strategies. I like things that go in strategies that kind of give me a framework to think about things versus just having a shotgun and shooting it out and saying, oh, what do I do? It gets inundating. There's too many things going on. So my simple strategy is receive, get the feedback, process it, work it with the team, create an action plan, and then actually act upon it. So super simple. I got 3 slides that I'm going to take you through: receive, process, and act upon. So the first thing that I have the headline there is feedback is a gift. I learned this at my PepsiCo days where HR told me feedback is a gift when somebody takes their time out of their busy day, because we're all busy, to share something with you. That's a gift they're giving you. And that, honestly, I think it starts with us owners, operators, whatever scenario you may be in, is to be in that receiving mindset. Someone's giving us a gift. We have to be in that mindset of, okay, I'm open. I want to improve. I want to be better today. And that's the culture I'm going to set, right? Having that receiving mindset, weaving that into the culture of the company. For us, for example, I'm maniac about sharing reviews with my team. They know customer delight is one of the pillars that we run our business on. It's not making customers happy, but it's going beyond that and delighting them. That's woven into the culture. They hear me talk about this all the time. Monday motivation, I ping them a quick review. When we get stuff, we're always sharing. So people in Bombay Eats know, okay, it's about customers. We're in the business of delighting customers. The owner's into it. It's not just lip service. This is what we do. And honestly, it's not a blame game. I tell them it's not about blaming somebody. Honestly, we all win together or we lose together. It's the team who's at the last mile. If they understand it, they embrace it, they see me do it, that's when we all win together, right? So share it with the team, get the team engaged, get the team excited, get the team into the mindset of also, oh, let's sweep this under the rug because we got a bad review. When we get something bad goes on, I'll get a message right away because they want to get ahead of it. And I'm like, that's great. That's what we need to do, is get ahead of it, right? So this is me being super passionate and excited about what is our online presence? Where are we getting feedback from? Online, as Kayla mentioned, Yelp is super important, and I don't need to dive into that. Google My Business. The one thing I say on Yelp is Yelp has this thing called Yelp Connect, which is almost like a push notification that goes out. We've subscribed to it. I go into my Yelp overall page literally like every 2 weeks. She said once a quarter. I would urge you to go in even more. Any business hours changes, any little changes, I'm always in Yelp Connect, in Yelp, updating customers. Google My Business, same thing. It's a Google business page. Any hours changes, these days, hours change a lot. Things are crazy. Google and Yelp are the ones I quickly go into update so customers know they're current with what's going on. TripAdvisor, as she mentioned, we do it, but it's a touristy thing. We have a location next to Navy Pier. We get a lot of tourists coming through. So TripAdvisor is a little more important for us. Nextdoor is something I've been dabbling with. It's kind of like a neighborhood network. You can either just post like a Facebook post for free, or you can advertise. I tried advertising, I didn't get as much response. So right now I've kind of downgraded that to just posting. Check it out, nextdoor.com. I think it's interesting. It may be more relevant for your business than it was for mine. Facebook, obviously, I think Facebook, we don't get as many reviews on Facebook as we get comments and interaction and feedback. Offline is something that we do a lot too. I'm just trying to move my thing here. So I'm in the restaurants a lot. I like being in the restaurant. That's what I do. So word of mouth, I'm always talking to customers, talking to them, getting word of mouth. My email's always out there, info@BombayWraps or BombayEats.com. We get a lot of messages. We use the Toast POS system. And interestingly, on Toast, when a customer places an online order, they have an opportunity to share feedback. We get a lot of that. We also engage a mystery shopper, which I think is really interesting. We used a company where now out of the NRA, I found another company that I'm exploring where a mystery shopper comes in whatever frequency you want, once, twice, 3 times a week at different shifts at different locations. They go through the whole shopping process and they write a report. And I think that's really fascinating where just a non-biased person comes in, goes through the whole experience and gives you feedback on how that experience was. We've also used a company called Tappiness to put an iPad up there quickly. How was your experience? Smiley face, neutral face, frowny face. You hit smiley face, you go one level deeper. Was it the food, service, ambience? You can set the questions the way you want to. I like a device like that as just an extra thing, an indication to customers saying, we care, we want to hear you. I see a lot of that in airport bathrooms, but I think it works well for us. The other interesting thing, and I was talking to Kara and Kayla about earlier, was we get a lot of reviews on Uber Eats and DoorDash. Uber Eats, I think, has a feedback loop built into the order process. When you place an order through Uber Eats, the customer gets, how was your experience? We're literally getting 20, 30 reviews a day. So what I do there is I actually schedule it for once a week, and I'll talk about my strategies later. But we schedule it, and then I go and reply back to all the customers. Again, they're giving me feedback. Uber is a good source, and so that really helps. So the next thing is process and share, right? Are there trends? Now that we said we get feedback from 50 places, they're coming at us from all different directions. Are there trends? Is there something about the food? Is there something, the taste, the quality, the presentation? Is it about pricing? Pricing now is becoming a bigger issue. We've taken pricing up twice this year. As everybody knows, inflation, consumers are expecting that, but I keep a close eye. Is there data points coming, like are the prices too high, or people are not seeing the value? Is there a service issue? Is it ambience? So let's identify trends, then bucket it, and then that gives you a good action plan. Obviously, like I mentioned, we shared with the team. I like to call out my stars. If somebody gets mentioned in a review, I think that's a big deal. We call them out just as a motivation. They get excited, then they want to be the ambassadors, and they want to push the rest of the team to provide that great service. We also build it into the incentive structure. My managers are on a quarterly bonus program. One of the things there is customer reviews. So we do sales, customer review, and their cost center. And so customer reviews are built into the incentive structure. That's, again, me trying to build it into the culture. Celebrate success. Can we go back a second? Sorry, I'm so sorry. Celebrating success, again, just celebrating. That's what getting a good review is always a good thing. That's the business we're in. Addressing any concerns, and then getting the team involved, right? Getting the team involved, ask them for feedback. They're on the front lines. They see it every day, and way more than what I see. That's how we create the action plan. And then the next slide is basically the final one on this topic, is acting upon it, right? As I mentioned, honestly, I don't think having your head in the sand is a strategy. I've heard some of my colleagues talk about like, the reviews are too much and people just want to rant and rave and, forget it. I'm not going to really respond to it. I don't know. I feel otherwise. In fact, I'm on the other end where a Yelp review, we typically reply back within 24 hours. 90% of my reviews, I personally reply back in 24 hours. Kayla was nice enough and said 48, but I think customers like are sharing something with you, and you like if somebody says hello, aren't you gonna reply back to them, or would you just walk away, right? I still take a few deep breaths to remind myself it's not personal, it's just business. When you get that 1-star review, my stomach hurts. And I typically don't even look at reviews when I'm out with my family or enjoying time with my friends, because I know I'm gonna get onto a roller coaster. That's how much I get impacted, because it's you know, I'm in that business. I'm passionate, but I know it's not personal, it's business. And then actively listening, as I mentioned earlier, right? Join the conversation, create that trust, create that relationship. I have a lot of customers now just emailing me directly on things, and that's a relationship I've created with them. It's amazing to have that, right? And then lastly, I would say people just want to be heard. They just want to be heard. Most people are not trying to be malicious. I assume positive intent is most people are not trying to be malicious. They want to be heard. There are many, many times that we can actually save the situation, save the sale, and create that advocate who then will go tell their 100 or 3,000 or 30,000 friends online, right? And then just set a goal. What's the goal? For me, honestly, it's a 4-star review, because for us as a fast casual restaurant, going above 4 stars takes way more work than it's worth. And this is my secret to you guys, saying that's my goal. I feel 4 stars is great, respectable, it's achievable, and it doesn't break anybody's back in the process. So just a little bit of how I go through this, and I'm not going to drain these slides. It just kind of gives you a strategy. When there's a positive review, right? We have 2 choices: something to add, nothing to add. So if there's a positive review, somebody says, "I loved your chicken tikka wrap," I'm going to quickly reply back saying, "So glad to hear that. Have you tried our chicken tikka rice bowl? If you like that flavor, you're going to really enjoy a different eating experience in the chicken tikka rice bowl." And that's me adding back and adding some value to them. When there's nothing to add, it's a great review. I actually have like a little template. It always says, "Thank you for taking the time to share your feedback. I'm glad you enjoyed our Fresh Indian Fast fare," which is my proposition, Fresh Indian Fast. I take the time to reiterate that. So they're like, "Oh yeah, Fresh Indian Fast." And then I have a standard template, which is either order directly from our website and save, download our app, use this coupon and save $5. Again, things that I want customers to do. I want them to order directly from me and not from third parties. I want them to download our app so we get more connected with them. So that's kind of my standard. I just rotate those around. Most of my comments, I actually choose to go public. Earlier, maybe a few years ago, I replied a lot private. I heard some good conversations, read some good articles about going public. Everybody can see it. Most of my comments are public, and you can see it on our Facebook page. But there's also time for like a private comment. If there's a little more of an exchange, private comments work too. So that's kind of how do you like a little bit of a framework on responding to positive. Critical reviews, that red hurts my eye, right? That's exactly, it's like critical review. You're like, oh my goodness, red alert. And then when you go through this, and we've all been through this, right? Some of them are legit. That, oh yeah, you know what? Completely sorry. Great point. We were training this new staff member and we missed it. And I really apologize. I'm going to share that with the team. And that's legit. Thank you. You made me better. I'm a better operator because of your feedback. Inaccurate. Sometimes, oh, the prices are too high. The rice bowls were at $14.99. And then I'll reply back very politely, we have options starting at $9.99. And so again, publicly, so people can see, because sometimes consumers tend to like inflate things in their head and over imagine. The rant is my favorite. It's hard to know. Earlier on in our Loop location, somebody says, oh, all this purple makes it look like Barney's dream. Barney, like the cartoon character. I'm like, great. Purple is a color I like. That's our decor. You're gonna tell me it looks like Barney's dream? Fine, sure. I will go with you on that. So whatever. And that's a rant. I think a private or direct message can take care of it. Again, then the strategy down below is, do we do public, private, direct? I think in critical reviews, there's more for room for private and direct messaging. That's like you just connecting directly with the customer. I typically don't offer them coupons or some stuff like that. Maybe if it's a bad experience and we completely miss it, I'll call them back for a free meal. But you don't want to say that publicly, right? Next thing you know, you have a storm of people saying, oh, this place sucks and let's all get free food. So in critical reviews, I think there's more room for private and direct message. But that's, again, kind of just thinking through, just having some framework of how do I approach it. The next slide is kind of like just kind of finishing this out is having tactics, right? I'm a big schedule person. I like my schedule. I like to automate things. So for example, every Monday I have a room blocked off in the afternoon. That's my slow time where I'll just go and reply to reviews, whether they're like the 60 Uber Eats or the DoorDash or Grubhub or whatever. Those are like the reviews I just do. I reply back once a week. Also, I'll make time to then go into Yelp Connect every 2 weeks and put out a new promo message. Go into Google My Business, make sure everything's tracking well, put out a new message. So I like to schedule things. I think when you schedule it, it makes it way easier. Like I mentioned, I also have templates, right? Thank you for sharing your feedback. Glad you enjoyed our Fresh Indian Fast. The next message is either order direct, download our app, or something else. So these are just templates that many times I can just copy and paste. Honestly, this is me again sharing another secret. But because they've got a good positive review, there's nothing really for me to add. I just want to continue to inform and educate. And then the other thing I believe, and I've heard a few restaurateurs say this, is I personally reply to every single review. I'm very passionate and maniac about this. I think it's consumers who make or break. That's the business we're in. And that's honestly the last thing that I would like to delegate. I know we're only at 3 locations, getting to our 4th. I don't know what happens when we open our 4th. Things could break loose. And I'm like, I stopped replying to reviews since the last time we spoke, maybe. But as of now, it's exciting for me. I want to go in, connect, create that connection and do it myself. I've heard about Review Tracker as an automated thing. Sorry, one more slide back. I'm so sorry. Review Tracker that you could automate. I haven't used it, but I just want to share that resource with you. And that could be, and then what Kayla said is amplify these great things on social media, on your website, on collateral. We have some banners that we use at events. We always call out what our rating is, People like to see that. That's just kind of a reinforcement. So you've got great stuff. Let's share it with the world. The last slide I had was similar to what Kayla mentioned about the Google review scam. Fortunately, thank God, I've not been involved in it, but we heard about it. I was at an IRA board meeting the other day, and they have a lot of great information. So those were the 2 email addresses they said. They said, do not give in to the scammers or the extortionists. Just go in, report it. I know Kara and the IRA team have some good information, so I would kind of point you to there. We have the resource within the IRA to help you if you unfortunately come into this situation. So that's what I had. And just finishing up with Richard Branson, very cool, very successful person, talks about creating that culture, right? Good customer service begins at the top. And if you do that, the team does it and the customers really feel it. And that's kind of the note I want to leave you on.
Thank you so much, Ali and Kayla. That was very informative. Again, if anyone has any questions, please put them in the chat. It looks like we have one right now from Brittany. She's asking, how do you recover from a lot of bad reviews? And both of you, I think, could speak to this one. Do you want to start, Ali?
Yeah, I can go first. Yeah, how do you? I mean, that is such a great question. I mean, that is gut wrenching. And that happens typically when you start out. When we start out our business many years ago, or when we start out a new location, it's hard. I mean, honestly, I would hate to say I reach out to my advocates saying, guys, you know what, we're in a little bit of trouble. Can you please help? Because we know what we stand for. We know the input we put in. But many times you just get like a string of 1-star reviews of people just, talking crap about you. And maybe true or maybe not true. I would tell you, do what Kayla did first. Flag him. I flag him on a regular basis. Write a quick note to either Yelp or Google flagging it. I would say I have like about 20% success where they'll remove it, but they're pretty strict with their standards. And I don't know with this new scam thing, it may change, but that's your first line of defense. The second line is reach out to advocates. And that's the game, guys. We got to play the game on both sides. There are a lot of customers, and great, that's your one point of view. I have this business that I put my heart and soul into, but yeah, we reach out to advocates to then try to help. But then hopefully once you established it, you've got a good baseline, then that becomes noise. At 300-400 reviews, you get a 1-star, sure, it hurts, but it doesn't really impact you. But when you start off, I know it's a big roller coaster.
Yeah, agreed. I think that with a lot of bad reviews, it's important to kind of counteract it with the positive. The best way to kind of improve your star rating is just volume. The more reviews that you're getting, the more that you're going to see that number starts to move around a little bit. So I agree. I think that it's reaching out to the people that you know have positive reviews. It's really pushing that with your current diners. If you enjoyed your experience, please leave us a review, whether that's at the register, it's in a post-visit email that you receive. Like, it's all about kind of reaching out to the people with the positive to kind of counteract the bad. And then over time, the more that you get on your digital, more that you build your digital presence, these numbers start to kind of wean out. So I think that it's also just kind of an ongoing thing of continuing to build your presence after you might have received those bad reviews.
Thank you. And Kayla, as a follow-up question that we just received, would you recommend rebranding? And also, I'm just curious, how do you, especially for new restaurateurs, how do you start out getting good reviews? Do you ask your friends? Like, what's the best advice there for especially new restaurants responding to bad reviews and rebranding, if that's recommended?
Yeah, I think with rebranding, it's all about the tone of your brand. I think that you want to make sure that the tone that you're putting out there is what your diners are expecting when they dine in. I think that can sometimes lead to the expectations of what they're expecting is different when you come in because of the brand that you have. So I think that it's important that the brand that you have is what you want, right? If you're confident in your brand and you think that it represents what you want your business to be and the audience that you're targeting, then stick with that, because that's what your restaurant is and what it should be. I think rebranding would be a bit more of like the extreme side of where you might be trying to really target a new audience with the new rebranding. So I would say yes, but probably not unless it's more of an extreme type of situation with the rebranding. And then in terms of just getting started, yeah, I think that typically we've found that a lot of people just like to be the first to review when you open up. Like, I've seen people be like, I'm the first to leave a Yelp review. So I think that there's kind of that natural feeling of like wanting to be one of the first to review people. So you might see those kind of pop up to start. But I think beyond that, again, it's just like creating that experience in a dining room that you want guests to share their feedback. I think if you have like a dine-in restaurant, it's really soliciting those reviews after with a post-visit email. That's a really great way for you to start building up your foundation, is targeting the people that are currently dining there. So I think that would be probably like the biggest tactic for really building up your reputation to start.
Great. And I like Ali's example of how every time he responds to a review, he says, we're the fast casual, thanks for the review. I think that that reinforces your brand in general. And do you have anything to add to this, Ali? And also another question along these lines is, how do you deal with customers who just want something for free?
Yeah, and that's a good question. If I can just add something, I like what Kayla was saying in terms of, just creating those templates and formats. Like in your email, just you can add your Yelp. I've seen some people do that. I think that's really smart. We don't have it. I need to kind of look at that at some point. Even tap into your rewards program. We have a rewards program through Toast. So we have a whole database of consumers that we're doing, right? That we're reaching out to. There's also that little fishbowl, old school fishbowl, drop your business card program. So when you have an email list, reach out to that email list. Those are people who dine with you, who want to share that information with you. They're already friendlies. So try to enlist them to kind of create that first base, right? Friends and family, honestly, also make a good base of reviews to start with. And then you kind of take off, right? Your second question was around, tell me again, Kara, what was the second question?
So as a follow-up to this is, how do you deal with customers who just want something for free?
Yeah. And that's a tough one. We are in the consumer delight business. Within reason, I tell my team, it's okay. We're fine. It's usually that it's that 2 to 3% that stick out the most and that sound the loudest. But in the scheme of things, it's not that many people doing that. I promise you, right? Somebody comes in, we have samosas, like little Indian empanadas, and we give one chutney. They want another one, fine, that's fine. But if somebody wants 5 chutneys, it costs money. Then we sell them for 50 cents each. But I tell my team, if somebody wants a little bit within reason, that's fine. Our prices have already started to reflect that. So let's go delight them. And then again, it's about understanding and creating trends. If this is a trend and 20% of your customers are wanting free stuff, then maybe there's a bigger problem. Maybe there's not that value proposition that they're expecting, therefore they want more from you. So first thing is, these are the people who stick out. The teams don't like it. They're like, oh, somebody wants free stuff. How many? Oh, that one person. Great. Okay. It doesn't even matter. But otherwise, is that a trend? Is that an underlying issue? Then maybe we address that.
Great, this is super helpful. And then you mentioned that you share these reviews with your staff. How does your staff, Ali, respond to positive or even negative reviews?
I think the staff really enjoys it because end of the day, they're the ones on the front line doing the hard work, right? And so when you call out people, especially people will call out like, hey, that employee, that person, and that's very motivating and exciting that you got called out in a 5-star review. So I want to share that, not because to put somebody else down, but to create that culture. Let's all be the torchbearers and push that agenda forward, right? Obviously, sharing 5-star reviews is very easy. Everybody enjoys it. On the flip side, when we have 1 and 2-star reviews, it's the learning moment, right? The teaching moment. I never really call anybody out on it. I will say maybe we got this at that location. That location has a bunch of people. I don't tell them what shift. It's not about making somebody feel bad, but really the culture that we have is learning. I tell people, make that one mistake. You can make it once. Let's all make mistakes once. That's fine, as long as we get smarter from it and as long as we can learn from it. So it's not about putting somebody down. It's about literally, that's the culture, is let's just get smarter. So tomorrow we're better operators.
Great, thank you. And I love the example that you used, that you took feedback from customers and then you added it to your menu in the form of dietary restrictions. I think that's an incredible example. And so I have a question for Kayla. Do pictures on reviews or pictures on Yelp or Google Business, does that help move your page to the top or pause? Does that engage people more? Would you recommend adding more pictures or encouraging diners to, add pictures to the reviews?
Yeah, it's a great question. So I think that on the operator side, 100%, the photography is a really big selling point. In general, it also just kind of gives new diners the expectation of what your food looks like, what your interiors are like, setting that expectation for when they're going to dine. But also they're really great for additional views. People will just look at your photos. You can see like there are thousands and thousands of people that are viewing those photos to see that. So I think that's really great for kind of setting the expectation for what your dining experience is going to be. From the guest side, yes. So the thing with some of these platforms like Google is they actually rank their listing or their reviews based on most relevant. And so a review that is considered most relevant is one that has both comments and photography. So those are the reviews that are placed at the very top of your search. I think that guests just like being able to share what their expectations were. Sometimes it's a little difficult because the photos they're sharing may not be the best quality photos, or maybe they're not the most representative of what your experience is. So you kind of have to have that give and take of like, they won't be your professional photos. They will be photos that might be dimly lit, or maybe there's a big bite out of it. So it's kind of like weighing the pros and cons of, yes, you want people to share those photos and you want them to give their experience. Having those photos combined with your own professional shots that you're proud of, like those two things together really, really build like a good experience and a good digital presence there.
Great, thank you. I had no idea that that's how important pictures are in ranking things.
Yeah.
We're almost out of time here. Ali, did you have anything else you wanted to jump in and say? I think everything has been super informative. I've really enjoyed it.
No, I would just urge my fellow operators, reach out. I'm a great resource. I love connecting, interacting. info@bombayeats.com comes directly into my inbox. If you guys are starting, need some help, need something. I've been doing this for 11 years. It's been super fun. My spouse and I do it. We got all kinds of knowledge and resources, and we love connecting. So there's nothing more important to us than connecting with our community. So yeah, let's connect.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Ali of Bombay Eats and Kayla at Kinship. This has been very informative. I'd also like to thank Cook County Small Business Source for making this possible, along with all the other resources that are available. And as a reminder, you will receive an email after we conclude this with this link and the slideshow. And this is being recorded, so you'll get that as well. And please keep in touch. Let us know at the Illinois Restaurant Association if you've had the Google scam thing or if any way we can be a resource. And thanks so much, everyone, for attending. Hope you have a good Thursday.
And big thank you to Kara for shepherding us and guiding us through this process. This was fun, and IRA is always such an awesome resource. So thank you.
I agree. I learned a lot. Thank you so much.
Thank you.